Thank you for joining this call. My name is Gus Basualdo. I am the Key Account Manager at Laird, responsible for the telecom solutions, particularly the in-building and small cells solutions that we offer for the telecom world and also for public safety. So when it comes to signal transmission, Laird has several solutions for in-building vertical solutions, vertical markets, excuse me. We actually start out at 132 megahertz and we go all the way up to the 5.8 unlicensed Wi-Fi frequency bands. So in other words, we have VHF and UHF solutions operating in 132 to 285 megahertz, and also UHF from 340. So it covers the tetra bands, it covers the first net 700 LTE bands, and also your typical 800 and 900 megahertz trunking solutions that police and fire department use throughout the nationwide. For the mobile network operators, we have solutions that cover the 700 megahertz band, the LTE band, and it goes all the way up to the 2.7 gigahertz band for also those type of frequencies utilized in the rest of the world. We also have solutions that are what today is called the CBRS band, or Citizens Broadband Radio Services. This is a new frequency that's being allocated to provide additional private networks of LTE that's going to be utilized by neutral host providers and other entities. This band operates in the 3.5 through 3.7 band. And again, Laird has antenna solutions for those applications. Also, we also do wireless medical telemetry services in the 700 and 1400 band for medical applications. And finally, we do the Wi-Fi applications in the 2.4 and the 5.8 gigahertz bands. So we have the typical solutions are the omnidirectional antennas, which are either SISO, or in other words, one port, or MIMO. We have different types of antennas that could be 2-port MIMO all the way up to 4-port MIMO. All our antennas are PIM rated for the mobile network operator networks deployments. And we also have non-PIM rated antennas for the rest of the world who do not require PIM rated type of solutions. We have the dome type, the low profiles, and the ultra low profile solutions, and they're available in the typical N-type connectors, or in today's world, for the network mobile operators, they're utilizing the 4.3-10 connectors. The solutions can be wall, ceiling, or above ceiling and pole mounted antennas. In the directional side, we have our, again, SISO and MIMO type antenna solutions. We have external donor Yagi antennas that get mounted on the outside of the building to receive the signal from the base station. Again, some of these antennas are non-PIM rated and PIM rated, the typical type of connectors, and again, wall mounted or pole mounted antenna solutions. And lastly, on the right-hand side, we have all the different types of accessories that are available to do the implementation of the site. In other words, the mounting brackets, the power over Ethernet, power supplies and inserters, RF cable assemblies, surge protectors, connector adapters. Laird has several innovations in this vertical market of DAS. In February 2012, we were the first 2-port low-profile MIMO antenna that came out into the market. In March of 2014, we released all our in-building DAS antennas. In the back of the antenna, it has a QR barcode in which when you scan it, it gives you all the information particular about that antenna's production. In September of 2014, we came out with the first 4-port low-profile MIMO antenna. And as 5G comes in place, we're going to start seeing more of these 4-port type of antennas being deployed for in-building applications. And in between 2016 and last year, we were came out with the first ultra-low profile antenna solutions that covers the 600 megahertz band, utilized typically by T-Mobile. And also these antennas have the 3.5 CBRS band. And we have them in different sizes and shapes, rectangular shapes, circular shapes. And again, the idea here was to come up with a low profile antenna solutions for aesthetically pleasing the building owners that sometimes they want the service, but they don't want to see the antennas. All these antennas are AT&T certified. They've gone through the certification process. We have the part numbers associated with the AT&T's system with the approvals. As far as Verizon Wireless, these antennas are also approved, but they fall into the exception list. So you have to request from Verizon Wireless to be able to utilize this antenna in deployment. We have several dozen deployed throughout the world, so we shouldn't have a problem with you getting an approval code for that.
Gus, I have a question.
Yes.
If you could go back one slide on your AT&T certifications, does that mean that these antennas that you're describing have CEQ numbers that they can refer to?
Exactly.
Okay, so for the audience, if you don't know, AT&T's approved parts list have what's called a CEQ number, and I'm sure it's an acronym, but one that I couldn't tell you what it stands for, but that's good to know because it's definitely an approved product in their network.
As a matter of fact, excellent point. What I can do later, I will send you the corresponding part numbers from Laird that corresponds to the CEQ numbers from AT&T to keep it simple and have a nice little cross-reference on the antennas.
Right, and again, for the audience's sake, if we do this properly and you know that you're doing some work for AT&T, you won't have to question whether or not it's an approved product, and you'll make sure that you're using the right solution. So thanks, Gus.
Thank you. So what I want to do here is use a laser pointer here. So in other words, let's talk about the omnidirectional, low profile, low PIM rated type of antenna solutions, a comparison of our offerings. We have the typical dome type circular antennas, okay? They perform really well, okay? But are they aesthetically pleasing? No. This is the #1 complaint when it comes to these type of antennas, the building owners. As you know, the building owner wants the service inside the building to keep the tenants happy, but one drawback is sometimes these antennas are way too big and they're not aesthetically pleasing, okay? So in this particular case, they're not aesthetically pleasing, but you're going to get the best performance available, and it's all related to physics, okay? So if these antennas could be mounted in certain areas of the building where you really need good coverage, and what you can do in other areas like lobby entrances of buildings, you might want to utilize these ultra low profile antenna solutions. They are very good, aesthetically pleasing because you can hardly see them. And again, the performance is good or fair, but not as good as a circular dome type of antenna solution. Okay, so again, the idea here is to show you then we have different types of antenna solutions based on the deployment. This antenna is going to perform very well. In some cases, you probably might need 2 of these antennas to give you the coverage that this antenna provides. But again, we want to make sure that the designers, the DAS designers, the project managers, the building owners understand that they have different types of antenna options to utilize depending what part of the building they want the service provided. So again, last year we came out with 3 different models. The CFSA 69383 is a ultra low profile SISO antenna, okay, circular. And then we also have a rectangular version. It's also an omnidirectional antenna, same as this one, but it was designed rectangularly. we had a request from AT&T in which they wanted a SISO antenna that would be wall mounted, and placing an antenna in the wall that's circular didn't have an aesthetically pleasing result. So they wanted to have something that they could just use as a rectangular type of antenna solution in the walls. So again, this could be a wall mounted, or it could be a ceiling mounted antenna solution. And then last year we introduced the first ultra low profile 2-port MIMO antenna that goes from 698 to 3800. It's the CFD 69383P antenna. And the pricing on this, just to give you a list price so you get an idea, they've been very popular with building owners because the price is very, very reasonable. The list price of this antenna, the 2-port MIMO, is about $80, while these are around $47 list price. So it gives you an idea then that depending on the quantities of antennas, the pricing is well done, that allows building owners to deploy some of these antennas throughout the entire building and keep the aesthetically pleasing antenna solution in place. When we talk about omnidirectional low-profile MIMO antenna solutions, we have several. We have the CMQ. This is a 4-port antenna, okay? It's a little bit large, so aesthetically pleasing, it's fair, it's pretty big. But then we have the CMX and the CMD's antennas. These are low-profile solutions. They're 2-port MIMOs, and again, aesthetically pleasing. It gets to be good and better. And finally, the best, as far as the size, the height size, would be the CFD 69383 antenna solution. So again, we have a 4-port antenna solution, and we have 3 different models, okay, of 2-port solutions. The antenna gain, again, is pretty reasonable, and this is looking at it from the 700 megahertz band for the LTE. It gets much higher as you go up the bands. And again, the performances, the best is this one, the CMX. It's a little bit bigger than the other antenna, so you get better performance compared to the CMD and the CFD antennas. The PIM is rated very good at all levels of the frequency band throughout. Then we have directional low PIM rated, okay, antennas. So we have 3 models. We have the SISO model for indoor, and we have the SISO model for outdoor, which is IP67 rated. And this is not IP rated, so it's an indoor type of antenna solution. And then we have the 2-port MIMO antenna, okay, that again provides a solution when you need to deploy a MIMO application in certain parts of the buildings. The best performance, of course, is going to be the 2-port MIMO antenna. It has vertical and horizontal polarization at each antenna port. So when we do implementation configurations, when it comes to 2-port MIMO antennas, what we have seen in the field with neutral host providers is that in some cases, because these antennas, each port has a vertical and horizontal polarization, okay? What we've seen in the field is sometimes they get the tenant, the anchor the anchor tenant comes in, and let's say that it's Verizon Wireless. So the neutral host will hook them up first to this port, and Verizon in this particular case will have one cable that's attached to their network that runs from 698 to 2700, and this element has vertical and horizontal polarization, and it's a low PIM rated antenna solution. Maybe a couple of months down the road or a year later, at that venue, they get the second network mobile operator. And let's say that this is AT&T. So what they can do is they can also do a SISO implementation for AT&T utilizing the same antenna. And again, AT&T and Verizon will be using SISO implementations, but each will have frequencies that go from 698 to 2700, and each carrier will have a vertical and horizontal polarization. So it's the best of both worlds when you're looking at a SISO deployment for a neutral host provider. We've seen that throughout the years. lately, this is the type of configuration that it's being utilized. In other words, you get one carrier, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, which they're utilizing both ports for a MIMO type of an application. And for each port, again, you're going to have vertical and horizontal polarization, and each port is also going to be utilizing the LTE bands, the AWS and the PCS frequency bands that are utilized today by the mobile carriers. So we have these two types of solutions because each element is horizontally and vertically polarized. There are some differences also in our antenna solutions because of the size. The bigger the size, as I mentioned to you, you get better performance on the antenna. And here's a good example. The CMD is a little bit smaller than the CMX antenna, okay? So what happens is, in this particular case, you don't have a circular pattern, okay, like you have here when you have a larger antenna. Here, what happens is you get a quasi-omni type of direction pattern, okay, which is not bad. You can still get the coverage, not as good as this one, but the advantages that we see this being deployed is when there's external PIM source in the antenna, near the antenna, what we have seen installers, they utilize the CMD antenna because what they can do is they can rotate the antenna to steer the null pattern at the PIM source. So all these null patterns here, they rotate the antenna by looking at the antenna data sheet to determine exactly what is the best way to try to deter the PIM issues of the interference issues near that antenna. So again, these are two types of antenna solutions that we also offer. Again, if the installers encounter interference and PIM issues by the source of that antenna. The difference is, again, as I mentioned to you, that the CMX, because it's a little bit bigger, you get a little bit better VSWR. The gain is a little bit higher also, and the PIM is also a little bit higher than the CMD antenna. So when we talk about what's going to happen in the next couple of years, especially with 5G and in-building antenna solutions, what we're seeing is coming down the pipeline that we're going to see a lot of neutral host DAS providers offering the CBRS frequency bands. And there might be some also LAA, which is the LTE and the 5 gigahertz band. So what we're coming out in next year is we're going to be getting out a CMD low profile antenna solution that is also going to cover the CBRS band. Today it only goes up to 2700 megahertz, so we're going to add the 3.5 frequency band to this antenna, so we'll be able to utilize all the AWS, PCS, and LTE bands that the cellular mobile operators utilize, and also add the CBRS 3.5 band. And we're going to do the same thing with a CISO solution. Today, the CISO antenna only goes up to 2700. We're expanding the frequency band also to cover the CBRS band. And we're going to be doing the same thing for directional panel antennas. We're going to add the 3.5 CBRS band to these antennas. And probably towards the end of next year, what's going to happen, what we call the 5G MIMO solutions, is this antenna, we're also going to add the LAA band, which is the unlicensed 5.8 LTE band that is going to start being deployed also. And so we're going to have an antenna solution that most likely would be a 4-port antenna to be able to cover all these frequency bands. And we'll also have the same type of antenna solution in our ultra low profile antenna solutions. There'll be, again, also a 4-port antenna solutions covering the 698 to 3500 and also an LAA 5.8 frequency band. So that's what the roadmap looks like when it comes to our in-building DAS antenna solutions moving forward by adding the 3.5 CBRS band and also the LAA 5.8 band. I mentioned to you that all our antennas in the back side of the antenna has a QR code. Utilizing any type of application that you can download on your smartphone, when you scan this, okay, what it's going to give the installer is going to give them the antenna model with the serial number of the antenna, and then for each port, so if it's port 1, port 2, port 3, port 4, if it's a 4-port MIMO antenna, it's going to give you the BSWR by frequency bands, okay, 700, 800, 1700, 2300, etc. And it also is going to give them the passive intermodulation, the PIM information by the low band, by the high band, and by the port number. So the nice thing about this is, as the installers are doing their as-built final documentation to present to the carriers, instead of handwriting all this information down, that takes a lot of time to do, and also it's prone for errors as you're writing all this information, you can simply scan this information, and later you can import this into an Excel spreadsheet or an IB-Wave mobile type tablet, and take all this information and upload it into the as-built final design DAS implementation for that particular building. It's something that installers love to utilize because, like I said, they save a lot of time and they know exactly where all these antennas are being placed. Another thing that you have is a 0-degree marker, all the antennas. So if you look at the data sheet, it tells you exactly then how to position and rotate the antenna to get the best coverage possible for that particular area that you want to cover. So you get the azimuth plane radiation pattern label always in the back of the antenna. And so you have the markings, or if it's a MIMO antenna, you'll have 2 markings if it's a 2-port MIMO antenna, and if it's our 4-port MIMO antenna, you'll have 4 different markings to be able to detect exactly then what is going on compared to the data sheet to get the best coverage possible. Again, when it comes to in-building, there are so many different types of solutions when it comes to mounting the antennas. We have the typical standard mount. So when you buy the antenna, all the antennas include the threaded post, okay, with a mounting nut. But also we have a couple of kits that we offer as an optional. So if you want to mount the bracket in a suspended ceiling, you have the option of buying this kit called the CMX-001, which allows you to mount a bracket and a suspended ceiling. We also have solutions. Sometimes the ceiling is a hard ceiling, so we also have top and side mounting brackets to be able to position and install the antenna in a hard ceiling type of scenario. Also, we have another option for certain types of antennas, which is the twist and lock for drywall and sheetrock type of solutions. So you drill this one in, and then once this is attached to the ceiling, you can rotate the antenna. You just put the antenna on top and you just flip it around and you rotate it, and it gets mounted on the ceiling. And also, we also have foam standoff, double-sided adhesive type solutions if you're going to be installing this antenna above the ceiling in the plenum area. We typically don't like to do that because every time you put something on top of that plenum area, it's prone for interference issues because of so many other things floating around there. But in the event that you need to put it above it, then we have these foam standoffs. The directional antennas, we have a standard wall and mass mount included with all the antennas. And also we have an optional articulating mount that you can order with a separate part number to be able to rotate the antenna left, right, up, down, and articulate the antenna to the right position. So on the side here you'll see all the different model numbers of our in-building DAS antennas. It gives you the type of antenna that it is, if it's a SISO or a MIMO type of solution, and also what type of options do you have? Do you have an option for the below the ceiling mount? Do you have an option for the above the ceiling mount? Do you have an option for the hard ceiling mount? So each part number has this option or not, depending how it's been designed. So it's a nice little cross-reference there you can keep when you're looking for an antenna solution in the mounting options. All the antennas that we manufacture typically come in 3 different flavors, depending on the type of connectors. When in-building first started many years ago, the typical type of connector was the N-type female connector. We still manufacture that for particularly for rest of the world type of antenna solutions. What we see the mobile operators and mobile network operators utilize is they demand today that they utilize the 4.3-10 female type of connectors. As you can see, the PIM is much better, the typical compared to 166 compared to 155 when it comes to PIM. We also have the option of the 4.1-9.5 female connector. This came out a couple of years ago, but we're not seeing a lot of installations with this type of connector. I think the 4.3-10 has become more popular with the mobile network operators and for the installers. So what we see today is typically, if it's public safety, it's typically the N-type female connectors. When we're talking about the network mobile operator DAS deployments, it's typically the 4.3-10 connector.
Hey, Gus, can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So in an effort of time, I know that we're coming to the end, but I do want to take this moment on this slide to help educate the audience, and hopefully no offense is taken. Many people in the industry, as you indicated, for the carrier and the contractor side, they're doing work on the carriers, typically use the 4310, right? And some people refer to these connectors as mini DIN, and they are not. So mini DIN was a part reference that really is associated with the 4195 or the middle connector. That was the first form of a smaller DIN type connector. So they started calling it the mini DIN. As the product evolution surfaced, the 4.3-10 or the 4310 connector is by far the preference, like you said. So whenever you start ordering parts and pieces from Tally, including the Laird antennas, but jumpers and all of that, 4310 is a typical connector if someone is referencing the new smaller DIN or mini DIN. Whereas 4195 historically and most currently, I think Sprint is still using those types of connectors, and it has a lot to do with what manufacturer they use to build their sites. And if their equipment is built with a 4195 connector, the middle one, then that's the type of jumper that you're going to need. But all the way to the left, the N-type connector is by far the default standard for most antennas in the industry before the mini DIN and the 4310 connector came up. So that's it, just a little piece of education there in reference to the connector evolution.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So all our in-building DAS antennas, they all have the IBWave VEX files. You can download them from the IBWave site. You go here to ibwavecomponents.com and you can download them. If also we have them, we can also deliver them to you via email. It's just one massive file that has all the different antenna models, so it's easy to send via email if needed. So in summary, we have below and above the ceiling mounting options, aesthetically pleasing low-profile antenna designs. We have omni and quasi-omni pattern options, depending if there's PIM issues in the installation. We have vertical and horizontal polarization at each antenna port. We give you the QR barcode label for exporting factory measured data. And all our antennas have excellent gain, VSWR, PIN measurement at the LTE band. Now, if you want to obtain any type of information as far as the Laird antennas, the data sheets, you can go to the Laird website, lairdtech.com, and then you could see exactly all the information that you need. I can quickly do this just to give you an idea. This is the Laird website. What you want to do is you go to Solutions, and under Solutions, you go to RF Antennas. And then once you select RF Antennas, the website is going to give you different types of options that you can do as far as what type of antennas that you want. You can select Wi-Fi antennas, Bluetooth antennas, cellular antennas, GPS, etc. And then all sorts of different solutions also on the right side of the screen. So it's very easy to go, depending on the application that you're looking for. You just select the right tab. So I think this is the end of the presentation.
Yeah, so you've done a really outstanding job identifying all of the different products that you're offering in the antenna space, and maybe specific to the in-building, but again, we know that you carry a wide range of antennas. We are out of time, but what I would like to encourage, I'm going to leave this open for a little while, even though we're going to drop off. And if you have any questions, type them into the chat box. We do appreciate your time. We will get back to you. And thank you so much, Gus, for offering some insight into the products and the product evolution as well. And we look forward to servicing you guys at some point in the near future. Thanks again.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. And like I said, any questions, you can just reach out to me. Reese has my email address, and he can forward all the questions that you have, and I can provide you with the right information. Thank you so much for your time, people. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Gus.